Hey, Susan, it looks like people are opening up the power of partnerships. So it might have just been wrong in the, I'm going to hop off this one and tell the other people to join this one. One second.
Okay, Ashton, thank you. Good morning again, everyone. We're going to wait one more minute. We'll start about 10:05. We're just trying to give folks a couple more minutes to get on the right link.
All right, I'm going to start recording.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our February professional development session. We're excited to see everyone on the call. Hopefully, we'll have a few more people join in just a few minutes, but we're going to go ahead and get started. As always, we provide you with a slide just so that you know who your contact folks are. Your program administrators, your fiscal monitors, the fiscal analyst, and your program coordinator are all listed there for you for your reference. Quickly, we'll just talk through the agenda real quick. First, I'm going to provide you with a federal funding update, and then we will have several 21st century reminders. And then Gina White is going to speak to you a little bit about Age of Learning and where we are in the process of getting folks onboarded for that program. And then we will turn it over to Intact for their professional development session for today. And I do apologize. I've been a little under the weather since last week, and my cough is, I'm trying to keep it from getting too bad, but the more I talk, the worse it gets. Good news is we will receive funding for 26-27. And so I know we've had some folks reach out and were concerned and wanted to know, what was the future for 21st century. And I am happy to say we feel really good about where we are right now with 21st century funding. We should receive pretty much the same amount that we've been receiving for FY26. And then we anticipate no issues going forward right now. And we are even planning to open a cohort 19 competition in December of 2026. Some of you have also reached out and asked if there are any more supplemental funds for summer. like we were able to push out in summer of 2025. And unfortunately, there are not any other additional supplemental funds right now, unless we have programs that end up terminating or giving back some of their funds. There's not any additional funds. We do have enough money to cover everybody's installments and your summer programming. And then we're good to go for next year as well. So just wanted to let everybody know that, so that you're not worrying or wondering what's going on in the federal landscape right now. So we are excited to say that, 21st Century seems to be safe. And so thank you all for advocating for the program over the last year. I know it's been kind of up and down and lots of things out there in the news that can, make you wonder, where we stand. But right now, we are in good shape. So I did want to be able to provide you with that update. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Aurelie with some more reminders that are coming up.
Good morning, everyone. This is just a reminder about your second and third installments. The program attendance update forms are available in CCIP under the related documents section, and they are required to be completed in order to request that second and third installment. And as a reminder, to qualify for second installment, you must have at least 50% of your total enrollment goal. Those students must have attended at least 45 hours of programming. And as you're completing the form, please note that if your ADA is below 70%, a technical assistance will be provided by your program administrator. And you can upload this form into CCIP at any point as soon as you meet those metrics for second installment. And then for third installment, as a reminder, you're eligible if at least 75% of your total enrollment goal has met at least 90 hours of programming. And the deadline to submit second and third is Friday, April 17th. Please don't wait until the very last day, because as you all remember during competitions, there may be instances where we have issues with CCIP, with internet. So just please submit once you have met the metrics. Because note that if you miss the submission deadline or you're not meeting those required metrics, this may result in a reduction in funds and can negatively affect you on the upcoming risk assessment for the next year. So next slide, please.
We have a question in the chat. I just want to request that person to unmute. Oh, it was a guest. I'm sorry, I don't know the person's name. But just to check before we move on. Okay, if that person has their hand raised again, we can definitely cover it. Sorry, Aurelie.
So what was the question?
Somebody had raised their hand, so I just wanted to make sure that we addressed whatever question they had before we moved on. But I think it could have been just a button press.
Okay.
And if you have a question, if you'll just drop it in the chat and we'll be happy to answer it there.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so now let's talk about the summer installment. The summer documents are already in CCIP. So in order for you to receive your summer installment, this is the list of items that you need to complete. You want to upload the summer basic program information sheet. This one is located in the optional document section of the related document. So you want to place it with the completed form, you want to place that in the optional documents. Make sure you're not replacing your school year basic information sheet. We want to make sure we keep both on record. Please verify that your building and fire inspection reports are up to date. If you are using a different site for the summer than you used for the school year, you want to upload those new building fire inspection reports. You also want to make sure that your occupancy forms for all your sites are on file. These don't expire, so if you're just adding new sites, make sure that you have updated those forms. Please also make sure that your SAM registration confirmation is active. Your expiration date must be past the summer programming timeline. You also want to make sure your transportation inspections are up to date. This is especially if you are offering day-to-day transportation or if you're just using transportation for field trips. Please upload all new employee or vendor contracts for approval before you request reimbursement for them. Remember, you must operate within your budget constraints. If you require a budget revision, you can submit a budget amendment 209 for approval during the uploading of the summer installment documents or any time during summer programming. And please note that the deadline to submit all these summer documents is March 16th to allow us time to review your documents, to allow time to make any revisions and corrections, and to make sure that you are able to get your funds at a reasonable time.
And
And so
I just wanted to insert here real quick. If you do not know who you are definitely contracting with for services by March the 16th, you need to upload a document in CCIP in that placeholder that lets us know that you will have some summer contracts and that you will upload those for approval prior to asking for reimbursement for that. That's extremely important. We know sometimes you may not be able to get your vendors secured, but we really want you to work hard to try to get those vendors secured as soon as possible, and make sure that your fiscal monitor is aware when you place a contract in CCIP for them to review and approve so that you can get your reimbursement.
thank you, Susan. And talking about summer, this is a time where you will be reflecting on, if you're cohort 17, how year one summer went. So it's important to look back at your targeted enrollment goal versus your actual enrollment for summer, and also review your average daily attendance. If last summer, your ADA was below 50%, it's important to identify those contributing factors and please request a TA visit so that your PA can support you during this planning time to think of solutions and support you in figuring out how we can improve, whether it's programming or connecting with families or connecting with students or doing outreach. And this TA request must happen no later than April 30th, 2026. Now, cohort 18, you have not had summer yet, but during your upcoming summer programming, if you start to notice that your ADA is consistently below 50%, please reach out to us at any time during the summer. We're also happy to support you during that time. And now I will pass it on to my colleague, Gina.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to talk to you today about the age of learning. As you all know, cohort 17, you guys were offered the Age of Learning program, and I wanted to go over some of the requirements that you guys should be using. So students must complete 45 minutes per week in each subject, math and reading. And sessions can be broken out into segments. For an example, you can do 15 minutes 3 times per week in each subject. Now, if your organization has not completed the Age of Learning survey shared by Deborah, you can do that now, and we will kind of look at that on our next slide. We do have a few seats, well, a lot of seats that are still not being utilized. So if you're cohort 17, you've had ample time to reach out to them and get your program started. And if you have questions about that, you can leave in a chat or email me directly, and we can see what we need to do to make sure that your program is utilizing the program, and then we can get your program set up and get your staff trained. Because of the empty seats, we're going to actually go ahead and open up that service to cohort 18. So if you're interested in utilizing this program, if you're interested in utilizing the program, you can also reach out to me or Deborah, and her email is on the slide, so we can get your program up and running.
Gina, I
Next.
noticed someone said that they have completed the survey twice, and if that's the case, if you'll connect with Gina, she will make sure that you get set up in order for someone to meet with you and onboard your staff and get your students rostered.
Right, and I'm gonna put my email address in the chat as well, so we can make sure that, you know, you're contacting the right people, the right person, excuse me.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. Now, this is just a note from
Hello,
the
North Carolina 21st Century Learning Program providers. My name is Debbie Vent, and I am your Customer Success Manager for Age of Learning, here to bring you a little update on how the programs are going in North Carolina across the state. So when students first log into the programs, they take a brief placement assessment to determine where they are going to begin their individualized pathways, putting them right in that zone of proximal development. That is exhibited by this bar at the bottom of the screen. As you can see, at the beginning, we had several students in the needs support developing category. And when you go up to this bar at the top, this is showing you the progress that has been made over the few short months that students have been working in the programs. So as you can see, this needs support bar has shrunk from 19.9% to 12.9%. We have had 12.1% of students move into an approaching proficiency category, as well as some on target and ahead. Just with a brief few short months of work in the programs, some centers got started back in September, some just got started right before the holidays. So we're really thrilled at this growth. Looking over at my Reading Academy, we've also seen great growth. You can see that these needs support and developing categories have shrunken, and the on target has grown from 3.7% to 7.2%. So we're very excited with that. All of this information is available in the programs, in addition to drilling down to specific school activity, classroom activity, all the way down to a student to get growth percentages. I have several centers that are already using this for reporting purposes for the grant. Lots of information being collected while students are able to play in a fun and engaging program to help get that information for you. If you are in the programs currently, we still have one professional development available on February 18th at 6 p.m. to review our reporting suite and best practices in the programs. I also hold office hours every Friday between 3 and 5 at a Zoom link that was also included in that catalog. Keep an eye out for our upcoming March dates coming soon. And if you've not yet launched the programs or signed up for the programs, it is not too late. All we need is a little bit of information on your program, your class organization, staff, that kind of thing. And for students, all we need is first name, last name, and their grade level. Very quickly in this form that will be sent to you. You don't even have to save it or resend it. You fill in the information, we can see it, get you roster within 24 hours. So if you are interested in taking advantage of this opportunity, this QR code is active to a Google survey asking you a few questions about your program. Someone will reach out to you to get you started, and we really hope to see more friends joining the program and providing this opportunity to your students. We thank our friends at DPI for this partnership, and we hope to hear from everyone soon. Have a great day.
All right. Now I'm going to turn it over to, who do I turn it over to? Susan?
Ashton.
Ashton.
Good morning. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm running a bunch of screens. So today we have heard from Age of Learning, a little bit of update from them, and now we're going to turn it over to Intact to connect you guys with the professional development for today, which includes family engagement to highlight and strengthen our connections with our family and the community. All right. Chad?
All right,
Take
sounds
it away.
good.
Perfect.
Good morning. How are you guys doing? I am glad to be back with you again to talk with you about summer starting in fall. I'm glad that we're starting to talk about it. Like, always makes me happy to hear that we're preparing and we're talking about our data. So, we are here to talk to you today about the logistics, right? So we've talked in our previous parts of the series about how we can make sure we're building intentional, like really powerfully designed programs. And then we've also talked about how we can build a team that supports that program. But what we need to do now is talk about how we can make sure that we have all the moving pieces fitting together so that when it comes time to implement that program, we're not caught flat-footed, right? So we're talking about facility, budget, schedule, staff recruitment. It's time to get into all of those logistics. So let's jump in. First, let's start with some introductions. You know me, you've seen my face if you've been part of this before. I am Chaz Sumners. I am a TA liaison here with our National Technical Assistance Center. And I come from a background of, I started as like a frontline staff in after school programs. It was just like a really cool summer and after school job. And then slowly you just sort of get a couple more responsibilities little by little. You wear another hat, you wear another hat. Then all of a sudden you're a program director, you wear another hat, you wear another hat, you know, and all of a sudden you just get all of these responsibilities. So I'm familiar with a lot of the moving pieces that are involved in running a program. And I'm just really excited to talk to anybody that's passionate about delivering good, high quality program to our kiddos. Today, I also have Alicia Park and John Hulse here. So I guess, Alicia, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chaz. Hi, everyone. I am Alicia Park, also a TA liaison. Very excited to be here and work with all of you. I have over 10 years experience across education and out of school time, from teaching and special education work in New Jersey to also leading national program and partnership initiatives that really focused on bringing high quality learning opportunities to thousands of students across the United States. My work has been centered on strengthening programs through strong relationships, thoughtful design, and data-driven improvement. I'm very passionate about creating inclusive, well-running learning environments that support both youth and you all as the educators who serve them. So I'm really excited to be here today and help you continue your summer program planning. And I'll pass it off to you, John.
Good morning. I'm John Hulse, and most recently I was at the Delaware Department of Education. I was the SEA 21st Century Coordinator there, and I'm so excited to be here this morning to talk about summer planning because I've many fond memories both as a camper and as a counselor and other positions in summer school, summer camp, and excited to talk to you this morning. So thanks for having us.
All right. So now that you've met our incredible team, let's jump in. So I guess before we jump in, I do want to make sure that we're set up for, you know, some really good positive engagement here. Because actually, I was just saying before all of you jumped on here how amazing it is that you guys are so engaged, and you know, you do some like really incredible work when it comes to the stuff that we give you. So I just want to give you a little framework for what our engagement's going to look like today. We're going to use two spaces today. So first, we're going to use our chat, and we're going to use our chat this time for more like quick pulses or like some questions or checks. So think things that are maybe, you know, 1-2 word answers, responses like done, A, B, C, D, if there are options, something like that. You know, the concept being the chat moves fast. And so if we use it for long responses, sometimes it's hard for people to keep up and find new ideas, then go back and find them later, right? So in order to make sure that we're preserving the really good stuff that we do so you can find it later, we're also going to be using our knowledge network. So we introduced this earlier in our series. It's our incredible learning platform where professionals from across OST and any sort of 21st century program can engage with each other and share, you know, incredible ideas, things that work, maybe pain points, right? And then maybe we can all work collectively to help support those people. So that's where we're going to put the bulk of our work. And so here's the rhythm that we're going to use. I'll give you a prompt if we're going to use the knowledge network, and I'll give you some time to think about it. And then I'll ask you to go ahead and post in our knowledge network. The link for the knowledge network is on the 21st CCLC site, but we can also drop it in the chat. just so that you make sure that you have it accessible to you. So if you're having trouble accessing it though, I want you to panic. It's okay. Take a deep breath. It's fine. Um, what I'd like you to do instead is just use the chat like we were doing last time. It's just that that won't be our primary means of communication and filling out these things. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thank you, Alicia. So that's the link for our knowledge network, just so you have it handy. So go ahead and click that link, and that'll get you signed right in. You should have an account already because we got all that set up before. Again, if not, don't worry, you can just answer in the chat. So now let's talk about what our objectives are for today. What are we going to do in our brief time together today? We're going to determine your space needs and considerations, right? It's awesome when you have really great activities that you're excited to run and they're data driven and you know they're going to be impactful for your youth. But if we don't have the space to run said activities, then that's a bit of a speed bump, right? I mean, we can have all the great ideas in the world, but if I'm working in, one classroom that's the size of a closet, then I mean, let's be real, what are we really going to be able to do, right? And so that can really inform our planning when it comes to, our activities. But also, if we get ahead of it and we start planning now for those activities in summer, we can start to address those and see what other partners we might be able to tap to expand the space that we might have. Going along with that, we want to make sure that we're planning our spending, right? In the same way that we need to make sure that we have the space to support whatever activities we, have developed. We also want to make sure that we have the dollars that support the awesome things that we want to do with our youth. And that's really difficult. But again, another place where we can start to tap our community partners, especially if we start now, right? If we jump into it in June and realize, oh, we don't have the money to support this thing, it's really hard to then go find community partners and be like, hey, look, I need a check like yesterday. But if we start now, then you say, hey, look, coming up, I want to do this really awesome thing for our youth for the summer, but I need, a little bit of a contribution. Then maybe we can like get a few different people. Then, you have some time to let people mull it over, that kind of thing, right? And then we also make sure we're very intentionally designing our program schedule. It's really easy to just start taking all of your awesome activities and just slotting them in, right? Just like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. But then if we take a step back, do we have, again, the space for that? Or for our next bullet point, do we have the staffing for it, right? Did we staff 4 activities at the same time, but we only have enough staff to do 2 activities? Well, that's something we need to consider. It's not that we can't do it. It just might be that we have to stagger what that instruction looks like, right? And that's why it's very important to look at what our program schedule is. And then when we talk about planning our staffing needs, it's partly about planning the schedule, right? But it's also about making sure that we have the staff that have the skills that align with the activities that we're doing, right? If we don't, we can pivot, but we don't know that until we take a step back and look at what our staffing needs actually are. Also, speaking to what your staff was talking about earlier when it comes to ADA and making sure that we have great attendance, we want to develop a really intentional recruitment plan, right? We want to look at who our highest need populations are in our community, and then look at targeting them to recruit them so that we can help support them. Because sometimes it's just that they don't know that we exist. Sometimes they don't know the breadth of the things that we do in our program, right? And these are things that we need to share, and we need to make sure that we're sharing it with the populations that are want to develop a data collection plan. So that same thing that we were just talking about earlier, right? When you got your update, you want to make sure that you are constantly collecting data, because that's what you're going to use to drive continuous improvement. There's no way, I mean, just driving continuous improvement through anecdotal evidence is really difficult, but having hard numbers and quantifiable evidence to show that it's impactful and working, that's what you really want. And that's what also lets you tell your stories to your friends, your family, and your community partners. So let's get started. So before we get into all the different logistics tools, I just want to pause and acknowledge something that came back in some of our survey feedback, especially surrounding timing, right? It can feel like February is early to start working on summer logistics, but like starting now allows thoughtful planning and let you avoid any rushed decisions. When you start early, you align your program design to identified needs, right? You map resources and your partners intentionally. So not only are we making sure that our program is designed with needs that we have thoughtfully and intentionally collected, and then we've used those to inform what our program actually does. We also are making sure that we're intentionally recruiting partners that support those things and maybe support things that we aren't able to provide here in our program. And then it also lets you make those logistical decisions, things like spacing, scheduling, staffing, budget, and let them actually fit your goals, right? We're not just looking to shore up cracks as they pop up. We're taking a big step back, taking a look at the whole dam and being like, all right, what part needs to get patched up before the flood comes, right? Just so that we're not standing there with like our hands on like different leaks, like, oh gosh, and now I need more people. No, we don't. Not if we take a step back and we plan intentionally and we do it, we give ourselves enough time to do it. Even if it doesn't feel like it yet, this is the part of the journey where you prevent the common summer issues that you might have encountered in the past. Things like the last minute staffing scramble, right? Like, oh gosh, turns out people are calling out. Turns out people still get sick in the summer. So I need more people. I need a deeper bench than I thought I needed. But now, how do I make sure that I'm recruiting people when all of the college students who are my normal recruiting pool already have summer jobs? Well, if we had gotten ahead of that, right? If we had done that in February, that wouldn't be as big a deal. Schedules that don't match your transportation or meals. Aligning transportation is one of those things people really forget about when it comes to the logistics of a summer program, and that's something we'll get into. Or just something like budgets that don't line up with the program you want to run. You might have a lot of things budgeted, but then all of a sudden you're running these different programs, and now we are just deciding that we're going to pivot. So, um, it's really important to say that starting early gives you the time to make those adjustments while you still have some options, right? So, all that being said, let's take a step back and look at our logic model that we've been working through since the beginning of our time together. So in the chat, I'd really like you to share one word or phrase about the status of your logic model, and then one area that feels clear and one area that still feels fuzzy. So we've posted that frame for you there in chat. So if you just go ahead and take a moment, think about your logic model and go ahead and post for me. Let me know what the status of your logic model is. Just give me one word or phrase, and then an area that feels unclear about it, and then an area that feels clear about it. Evolving, that's it. I get it. I get it. Best laid plans, right? Everybody has a great plan until like things actually get live. Progressing, yeah, I love that. Attempting to draft, and that's what we want. We want to start it, right? It's about starting. We can't finish if we can't start, right? In development, enhancing. All right, we're progressing. Yeah, that collaboration part is difficult, particularly like until you actually determine what your needs are, Cassidy. Like once you take a step back and you look at the data you've collected and you determine what your needs are, it's a lot easier to determine what people in your community you need to collaborate with to really support it. Close to final, I like that. Developing, listen, again, it's okay. It's a process and these things are going to change. It's going to end up being a living document in a way, right? We're not making big changes, but we need to be sensitive to the fact that things are going to shift. Close to final, staffing plan is clear. Student rosters are still fuzzy. That's fair. Student rosters, I mean, we're still filling those people out, but we'll talk about how we make sure that we're filling out our rosters and getting that really good attendance and recruitment. Good. I'm glad that you got a really good team, Krista. That's important. And the parent engagement, because the parent, like having those two parts is incredible. Like that's incredible support right there. Progressing, plans are clear, but the staffing is still a little fuzzy. Yeah, I mean, we're still at the point where it's going to be a little fuzzy, but at least you know how many people you need and the things that you need, right? Clearer now. Okay, refining some long-term impact measures. Yes, absolutely. We need to make sure that we have very clear metrics about how we are going to measure success in our programs. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Oh wait, academic teacher needs are clear. Community engagement fuzzy. Again, yeah, I get that. That's tricky, but I think that'll become clearer for you once you really take a look at that data. You guys are awesome. It's early, or at least it's early for me. I'm not a morning person, and the fact that you guys are so engaged is incredible. So let's take a look at how we can make sure that we stay on the same page, both literally and figuratively, because we were talking about the operations page on our Excel spreadsheet, right? So in the planner that we've shared with you a few times, and we can also drop it again for you, in tab 5, you'll find what we call our operations tab, right? This lets you track things like your space, your time, your capacity, right? So on this slide, you have site location, you have transportation needs if necessary, the total weeks, days, daily hours, right? These are important things that we're tracking. And it's important to, while we're planning how we're actually going to roll out the awesome activities that we've developed, it's important to think about these things, right? So for today, we're going to capture your thinking in the chat and in the knowledge network, but I encourage you, as you're working through this thinking and like, we leave after our time today and you're thinking about it, you're mulling over the good stuff that we've talked about, I encourage you to use this tab in the planner to keep all of your thoughts aligned, because I know I certainly need something like that. Otherwise, my thoughts kind of look like spaghetti, and I don't like having a spaghetti brain. It's just not great. So this will help you make sure that you're aligned and all set up. So today we're going to practice how we make defensible decisions about how we're setting up our program, right? I made this decision because this is what our capacity is for our staff. This is what our capacity is for our program. Yes, I'll drop the planner in just a minute. So again, make sure you take a look at those fields in your planner, but let's talk about finalizing operational details. Now that you've reviewed our operations section, right? Like, so now that we've taken a look at what the operations tab looks like and how it can actually really support us in our planning and our thinking. It's got you really thinking about that space, time, capacity, right? So let's make it practical, because most of these details can't be finalized by one person. It's great that you have a plan, but normally these things are going to be, okay, well, I have a plan for transportation, but I need to actually go talk to the bus company, right? So it's important to take a step back and consider the actual needs and who you're going to talk to, right? So they might require it might be things like transportation, nutrition, maybe for facilities, maybe, I mean, the thing that I think people often overlook, especially when we talk about aligning our logistics for facilities, is our custodial staff, right? And I mean, it's a soft spot for me because I think they just get overlooked all the time, but those are the people that are really going to make sure that your building is functioning day to day, especially in summer when it's going to feel like that building is empty. It's going to feel like a ghost town besides those people. So those people are your lifeline. So making sure you check in with them, very important. And district level people, all those folks. But to me, the custodial staff are really the most important people. They're our stars. So instead of putting all of this stuff in the chat, we're going to do it in the knowledge network, right? So follow that link that we've dropped in there, and there we go. There's the summer learning implementation planner dropped in the chat. Thank you, John. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the knowledge network, and you'll see a thread called who, what, where, determine logistics. We're going to go ahead and drop this in the chat for you again, just so that it's top of mind. And then I'd like you to make an initial post with 2 bullets. So we're going to answer prompt number 1 there. You're going to answer who you need to collaborate with to finalize some operational details. So give me some roles, give me some, maybe like 2 or 3 roles or departments that you might have to check in with as you're planning. And then what's the biggest constraint or dependency shaping your operations plan? And then third, if you have time, tell me how your logic model and your grant are informing the decisions that you're making. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you some independent working time. Take like 5 minutes and go ahead and write a post on the Knowledge Network. Jump in and engage. We'll keep the chat open, of course. It's open for questions that you might have about the Knowledge Network or anything like that. And if you cannot access the Knowledge Network, then please go ahead and answer in the chat.
So Chaz, as they're doing that, I'll just try to remind anyone who's going there for the first time. I think you'll need a name and a login. So you'll need to establish a sign in to the Knowledge Network. And then once you do that, I believe when you first go here, if you're not part of the group, you just have to join the group, and it lets you follow the content and join the group. And when you're on this page, it tells you the prompts you just asked for. It's right on the page there. So it's not like you have to be clear or whatever and remember what you just said. So just a little help there in case people are getting there for the first time.
Yeah, thank you, John. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and monitor the Knowledge Network here for responses, and I'm also going to monitor the chat for responses. Oop, I see one already. Awesome. You guys are stars. This is great. And while you're responding, I do want to encourage you to poke around a little bit in the Knowledge Network, familiarize yourself with it, because you'd be surprised how many people are just like up there sharing, either things that are working or, difficulties that they might be having. The group's name is the North Carolina Summer Learning Training Series. We can also, I think we can drop that group in the chat as well. This should be the link to the group.
It's helpful because if you're not even a part of the group, because this came up for me, it'll show that you can't comment, and it'll say join group, and you can easily join that way. So then it'll allow you to comment.
I do want to note that we are going through a bit of a refresh for the Knowledge Network. So the next time you see it, don't be surprised if it's even more intuitive and functional than it already is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. Yeah, I get that, Maurice. That's the tricky thing. Don't know any of the logistics of classrooms yet, because it's hard, right? Maybe people haven't actually told you what classrooms you're going to have available yet. And again, it's February, so no need to rush that. But at least you're ready for when those things, for when those things actually come up. All right, I'll give you guys 30 more seconds to do some work and some good thinking. Yeah, and hold on, let's just sending that to you right now. In theory, that is not the right thing that I copied there. Stand by it.
For those that are having trouble responding to the prompt, are you seeing anything that says like you haven't joined the group? And if you select the button that's alongside of that, it says join the group, and then you'll just click join and it will add you to the group. I don't know if that will solve some of the accessing issues we're seeing.
Sure, Christoph. I'd be glad to just take a brief moment and go back over what our knowledge network is because it's really awesome. It's really like a professional learning community for 21st CCLC folks. So anybody that runs a 21st CCLC program can sign up, and it's not even just people who run, right? It could be your frontline staff too. And so think about it as sort of a social media for all things out of school time where people share like so instead of just being a thread where like oh hey I saw this funny thing, it's a thread where it's like hey I'm having trouble getting my attendance numbers up, like when it comes to my midweek recruit or retention it's really difficult. Who else is struggling with that? And then you hear somebody from California chime in and say oh look, this is who's struggling with that too, right? So it's really a great way for everybody to collaborate in a way that you don't always have the opportunity to do because we're always running around doing 10 different things. Awesome. So let's look at some of these different responses. So let's look at our knowledge network here. So our front desk team and the lessons plan team. Okay. And our biggest logistical constraint for the summer is just managing for the constant full day schedule. Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, making sure that we're fully staffed up and we're ready for the whole day is tough. It's a long day for them and it's a long day for you and your staff. So that's something to be thinking about, right? Let's see. Tanya says we've got feeder school principal and transportation department, and then our staff retention. Okay. All right. Making sure the staff, I mean, staff retention is tricky, especially because like the nature of this work means that we have like people who are sometimes in a transition period in their lives, right? We might have like high school or college students, and then we don't have them the next year. Pam is saying our biggest dependency is our partners. Yes, absolutely. Lean on those partners. I mean, they're the people that help make sure that we're going to be able to continue running our program even after our grant cycle ends, right? Spaces and staffing have been identified by Jessica. So now we're just working with staff and partners to finalize schedules and outreach field trips. That's awesome. And then especially when it comes to field trip plans, I think we all know making sure those things are done early means that we actually get them because I mean, I think we've all been in the position where we try to do a field trip and it's just too late, right? And we just can't get everything, can get all of our ducks in a row, and all of a sudden we don't have a field trip and we have to do sort of a staycation here at our program at our site. Let's see what else we have here. So we have collaboration with our LEA district leads for curriculum and logistics. Awesome, making sure that instruction is aligned with what's going on in the school day, and also with the building principal. Paula, you've got some serious buy-in from your school day partners, and that has to make things a lot easier. Let's see what we've got here in the chat. Do a couple more. You guys have so many good responses. I could do this all day. All right, so we're good to go on weekdays and hours. Enrollment by grade, although enrollment has been a struggle due to admin not being highly responsive. Now that's tricky, right? Making sure that communication is constant and fruitful is a difficult thing. And then use of space. The grant helps inform what we need to prioritize and what we can take a beat on and worry about it slightly later. Yeah, that's why doing this planning early is really important because there are things we need to take care of right now. And then there are things that we can take a beat and say, okay, I'll deal with that in March, or that's an April problem, and that's really important. And it helps us make sure that we're not frazzled. Let's see, let's get a couple more. So Brandon says we need to work with the site director, feeder schools, and property owner to determine weeks, days, enrollment, and space usage. Absolutely, yeah. And then making sure everybody is involved in that process means that we're all on the same page and we're not, I don't know, a month into summer and all of a sudden something happens, right? I mean, I remember one time I was running summer programming and then a month into it, they started another program and I had no idea this other club was starting. So, I mean, these are the things that we can get ahead of when we make sure everybody's on the same team and we're planning early. Thank you guys so much. You guys always do some really incredible responses. And it's stuff that like I really want to continue talking about. That being said, that discussion can continue here on the Knowledge Network. So I encourage you to respond to each other and to look out for other posts that might be here on the Knowledge Network that might interest you. So let's talk about designing the day, right? So we're going to move from our big picture to what the actual daily experience is. Because I saw across a lot of our responses that now we're planning what our days and our weeks look like, right? So as we plan those things, some important things to keep in mind. The length of activities, right? So we're matching the duration to the age and the task. We have shorter blocks for our younger folks. We have longer blocks for projects so that we have enough time blocked off for students to really be able to dig in and do some work, right? We want to make sure that we have a variety of engagement types too. We want to make sure that our students are, of course, getting academic support, but we also want to make sure there's some, enrichment and some thought to addressing the holistic student, taking the student as a whole, not just as an academic person, not just as as a whole human being. I think it's also important to think about making sure that we bake in some physical movement across the week. I mean, no, we're not just doing big blocks of recess, right? But we can be very intentional about how we're planning physical movement into our activities. High quality 21st CSLC programs intentionally blend academics with the sort of enrichment and youth development that we're talking about. So when it comes to transition time, we want to make sure that we're building in realistic transition times for moving between rooms, the cleanup, resetting groups. I remember I was doing summer programming one year and I had this one site and students were constantly late for one thing or another. Like they're always running late. And when you look at the scheduling time, it's like, well, there's a minute of transition time. High schoolers don't even function with a minute of transition time. You're trying to tell third graders they have to clean up, get all their stuff ready, and then get to this next place and be ready to engage in a minute? That's crazy, right? Let's be realistic. Let's take a step back and really think about like what that looks like. When it comes to required meal times, again, because we're running summer programming, it's something that we really need to think about that we might not otherwise be thinking about. Many of you are already serving snacks or meals through the childhood nutrition programs like NSLP or the USDA childhood nutrition programs. These programs have very specific timing and service requirements. Like you're getting the support, but you also need to make sure that you are administering the nutrition according to what their guidelines are in order to continue receiving that support. So it's important that snack periods are very clearly scheduled. Our drop-off and dismissal windows. Again, this is something that, we need to think about even more when it comes to our summer programming because, we don't have buses that are running in the same way they actually are. So making sure that we are engaged with our with our transportation folks. It might be the bus company. It might be like a shuttle service, depending on where you are, something like that. So we'll look at an example, and then we're going to have you guys build out a partial week. So on the screen is a sample Monday and Tuesday for one group. We're going to say rising 4th to 5th graders, right? So going from 4th to 5th. So here we have a short arrival and breakfast window. So we give them some time to come in, eat, check in. This is really important. Baking some serious time in here in the morning is important because it makes sure that just some of that initial high energy from like our morning folk, like our kids who are morning people, can get diffused before we jump into our first academic block there at 8:30, right? You got to come in, you got to eat breakfast, you got to socialize, got to check in with your favorite staff member or your friends or whatever, and then we jump into our reading, right? And then we have 1 or 2 academic blocks, and these are of course going to be aligned with your program's reading and math goals, which are informed by the data that you've collected, right, in your data collection plan. So your needs assessment informs what these actual goals are and what's realistic for your particular, group, for your particular community. You'll also notice that there are enrichment and physical activity blocks baked in there. So like I was saying, we can be very intentional about how we do our enrichment and our physical activity so that it doesn't just feel like a free for all, right? It doesn't feel like, oh, it's just recess. Oh, it's just, coloring time or something like that, right? We're very intentional about what we're doing in those times, and we're making sure that those enrichment opportunities are varied. And then we very clearly define transitions and dismissal, right? We know very clearly how dismissal's going. It goes the exact same way every time. We have a routine. We don't vary from it because that's how we end up going, wait, did that kid get signed out? I don't know. How do we not have that? How do we not have a signature right here, right? And then I'm calling a parent and I'm like, listen, I know this looks bad, but technically I don't have a record that your kid was picked up. I hear them in the background on the call, but thank you. I have to check in and do this. Prevents those things, right? Notice how each block can get tied back to a program SMART goal in your logic model. Because remember, we developed all those SMART goals that are intentionally aligned with your data. Also notice how the pacing feels really reasonable for youth as well as your staff. Because remember, your staff still have to do the cleanup. They have to do, they have to get ready for the next group coming in. They have to prepare for those transitions. So let's draft a schedule. We're gonna just draft a partial week so that you can pressure test whether your program design's realistic, given meals, transportation, staffing, space. So instead of putting the schedules in the chat, we're gonna try using the Knowledge Network. Again, if you can't access the Knowledge Network, please go ahead and use the chat, right? Because the important thing is getting your responses. That's the most important thing. I'd prefer that you do them in the Knowledge Network, but I don't want that to be a barrier to you responding. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pick one priority group of yours. So it might be my rising second graders, right? My second graders are going to become third graders next year. I want to target them, right? And then you're going to draft 2 days of a week, right? You'll build out the full week later, of course, you know what I mean? But right now, just to pressure test it, we're going to do 2 days. You want to make sure that your 2 days include academic time, enrichment, and transitions and meals. So go ahead and, if you can, go ahead and respond in the Knowledge Network under prompt 2, or for prompt 2, right? Just say prompt 2 for your post, and then go ahead and answer the 3 or 4 bullets that are there. You'll see it'll say grade band, the weekly structure that you need, one constraint that you might run into, and then one thing that you might want feedback on. So we'll keep the chat open here for any responses for people that can't engage with the Knowledge Network, or for any questions you might have about the exercise or about anything else that might be going on. Oh, you got the Knowledge Network up? Nice.
I also found it helpful when responses are put into the Knowledge Network. They don't immediately pop up on your end, of course, technology. So refresh your page, because then you'll be able to see all of the comments and responses that everyone has been submitting. So if you don't see it, do a little refresh on the page, and it'll pop up.
Wait, why didn't anybody respond? What is
I threw that up there so that people who are putting it in the chat can also see exactly what we're asking for. But yeah, as Chaz said, if you can put it in the Knowledge Network, it will be saved there, and you can get to it much easier than when we send a copy of the chat to you.
Yeah, and then if you can't access the Knowledge Network, the frame is right there in the chat for you that Alicia posted. So yeah, just respond however you like, and go ahead and take a couple minutes to do that now. I'll stop talking and let you think. Next time I'm putting Jeopardy music in here.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe some calming classical music to promote
Mhm.
thinking, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe some elevator music, maybe a little bossa nova.
Right?
Mm. Awesome. I'll give you guys another minute or so. I'm already seeing some great schedules here in the Knowledge Network. This is really important because it also helps you realize just how long a day it is for our youth, you know what I mean? And so that's why we want to make sure that we have enough enrichment time in there for them.
Chaz, someone put in the chat that they're not able to see where to put the information.
Huh, okay. Well, if you scroll down to the very bottom of this post right here, um, that should be the link that takes you directly to that page in the Knowledge Network. So if you scroll down, you should be able to add a post. Like all the way down to the bottom, there should be a white box there, and then next to it, it should say comment.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Angel, I'm not sure why it says that you have to log out.
That's very strange. Yeah,
Yeah. If it's not allowing you to access today, something for the back burner to look into further after this, but in the meantime, definitely utilize the meeting chat so we can see your response.
all right, so let's take a look at some of these schedules here. Okay, so Tanya has our STEM summer daily schedule here, right? So you've got a good time for activity for drop off and activity choice. So like that sponge time, right? We're not where when we're actually going to have our full complement of students. So let's bake in some time where it's not just like okay, free for all, right? There are some activities we have to choose from as students are starting to filter in. I love that. And of course, our good old breakfast time, right? We don't want to skimp on that. Yeah, some good morning SEL work too. Yeah, let's do that before we jump into the activities, right? Before we do anything academic, let's take a step back and work on ourselves for a minute. I love that. And then we've got some good impactful groups here. Um, I'm assuming that the ends of these periods, like the ends of these blocks, are transition. Or well, I see transition time. Never mind. With bathroom and transition. There we go. And that's plenty of time too, right? And then, yes, of course, because inevitably there are going to be 8 people that need to go to the bathroom between blocks. And we have 4 stalls, so that means we got to cycle them out. I think we've all been there. And then I like that. We have Monday, we have a visitor, we have clubs, field trips. We have it nice and varied. So students have something new to expect every day when they're coming in, and that helps with that engagement, right? Poppy has our rising first to seconds, right? So we drop off and breakfast, and we're giving them some good time to do that and get some of their sillies out before we jump into our academic block. And then we do our physical activities, enrichment, lunch, then enrichment 2. Awesome. That seems like a good morning. So these are really good ways to take a moment, zoom out, and get a bird's eye view on what you intend to do, and if you have the time and space to do what you intend to do. So let's go ahead and talk about how we pay for those things once we have that space. Alicia?
I'm ready. I also just wanted to comment some things in the chat. Thank you to our IT help, our resident IT help. It seems like if users log out and log back in, then the Knowledge Network will pop up. So if you're getting that log out message, maybe try to do that, as it seems like it's helped for some. So thank you again for the IT support. We all need to help each other, right, with this tech sometimes. All right, so let's let's look at budget alignment. So we're going to do a quick budget reality check. You've drafted key parts of your schedule and you started thinking about staffing. Now we need to make sure the plan is financially feasible. When you look at the budget planner categories, personnel, contractual, supplies, travel, training, benefits, the question isn't just, do we have a budget? It's, does the budget match the program we're planning to run? So if your schedule requires more staff hours than you budgeted for, or your enrichment plan relies heavily on paid partners, you'll want to surface that now while changes are still easy to make. One thing we consistently see is that budgets are often built before schedules fully take shape. And that's totally normal. And it's exactly why we want to pause here. This moment is about checking alignment while you still have time to adjust your design, staffing model, or partner plan. And one important reminder based on summer program patterns, don't forget field trips, right? Field trips can be a major cost driver, and it's not just the admission fee. Often the real costs include transportation, extra staffing coverage and supervision, meals, materials, and any required preparation or paperwork for those field trips. If field trips are a part of your summer experience, and for many programs they are, this is the moment to name them explicitly and decide what is realistic. All right, so there are a few other hidden areas where cost creeps in, and those are benefits costs when increasing staff hours, supervision ratios for high need student groups, consumables like art supplies or STEM kits, technology needs such as devices or software that you may be looking to utilize, and vendor pricing that varies by time of day and the type of activity that you're planning. Almost every program finds at least one misalignment when they do this reality check, and that's not a red flag. It's exactly what this step is for. Adjusting now is far easier than discovering a gap in June, when your hiring pools are thin, buses are scheduled, and partners already have commitments. So we definitely want to think about these things now. Now is the time. It's weird because it's winter weather still, right? But we want to think about summer. I know I'm thinking about summer. My brain is in summer mode for many reasons. As you work through the next activity that we're going to do, we're looking for your staffing, partners, supplies, and field trips, so you can adjust your schedule, staffing model, and spending plan before implementation. The more clearly you can see the financial implications now, the smoother your program setup will be, and the more confident you'll feel moving into the next phase of this planning. So for this slide, for this activity, we're going to stay with the example schedule that you're going to see on the screen. Can you actually go to that schedule? There we go. Perfect. So this is an example schedule that you're looking at. Take a look at it, scan the day, and identify one cost driver you think people underestimate. Choose one category and name the specific cost. So think about that first. Before you start typing, take a moment to really look at that sample schedule and think what's happening underneath each block. A schedule can look very simple, as we typically like to lay it out, but every block represents people, materials, transportation, or partner time. And each of those has real financial implications. So this activity is really about sharpening your ability to see the dollars behind the design that you're laying out. Many programs find that surprises pop up in places they feel are minor, like needing an extra floater during transitions or realizing an enrichment block uses more consumable materials than you expected. Even meal times can have operational and financial implications depending on your USDA structure. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to scan the schedule and pick a category that stands out to you. Focus on something that might sneak up later on in the program. We want to definitely be proactive versus reactive in these situations. All right, you can click to the options to show up. Great. All right, so it's Poppy wrote supplies, definitely. Thank you, Chaz, for adding the prompt in there. Supplies and materials, snacks. STEM enrichment supplies. Supplies seems like a very common theme. Supplies and materials. Totally understand. Field trips. Yes. That's why we wanted to call that out today, because it's something that we kind of push off and then it sneaks up on us and we're like, field trips. We need to make sure we're thinking ahead there. Transportation expense. Yes. Partnership contracts. Absolutely. That's a biggie. Staffing with call outs, especially in the summer, right? That can add an extra barrier of struggle there. STEM enrichment may need additional supplies. Field trips. Yes. Seeing more field trips come in. These are all really good responses. Definitely feel like you won't feel alone because they're all very similar responses. Custodial contract. Okay. That's a really good call out that others may not be thinking about, but could absolutely come up.
Yeah, those custodians need to get paid in the summer.
Right? We can't forget about them. All right, supplies for the office. Yeah, so I'm definitely seeing a lot of similar call outs with supplies and STEM supplies, specifically field trips, consumable academic and enrichment supplies. Yes. So, yeah, the hands-on activities, punishment to keep preteens engaged. That's an important one to call out, right? We need to keep those preteens engaged. And the transportation, especially when it relates to field trips, admission fees with field trips. Great. Those are all really good. So knowing which budget bucket holds the cost helps you understand where you have flexibility and where things are a bit more rigid when you're doing your planning. So we want to continue thinking about this, and we want to think what's one schedule or staffing adjustment that could reduce that cost that you called out without reducing quality, because we definitely don't want to do that. This doesn't have to mean doing less. It's sometimes about designing more strategically. So maybe combining groups for a partner activity, staggering transitions, rotating supply heavy lessons weekly instead of daily. So we don't use up all those materials so quickly, and definitely adjusting block lengths. So we're setting the schedule, but it doesn't mean we can't adjust them a little bit to foresee what might pop up. So small shifts can create meaningful savings while maintaining a strong student experience, because that is what we want. So thank you for all those insights. This activity really highlights how important it is to look at your schedule through the lens of cost drivers early on. These small realities, when identified now, will absolutely help make your program far more sustainable and prevent headaches later. We want to try to prevent them. All right. So now we'll translate your schedule into actual people. So we're looking at the next slide. Thank you, Chaz. Before we move into the activity on the next slide, or on the next slide, this is laying it out. This is the moment where we shift from imagining the schedule to asking who is actually going to run each block, right? We have these wonderful schedules laid out. We have all of these specific blocks, but who's going to run them? We need to figure that out. A schedule isn't real until we know who is delivering the work, what qualifications they need to do that work, and whether we can staff it within our capacity and our budget. So this usually includes categories like activity name, pulled from your program schedule, and intentional design planner. Day of the week and time, type of instructor. Is it a certified teacher, a youth development staff, a partner that you're bringing in, a paraprofessional, etc.? So thinking of the type of instructor. Qualifications, so credentials, content expertise, certifications, lifeguard even, we need to have those additional qualifications thought through ahead of time. And then possible instructors, so specific staff or even partners that you're bringing in for there. So what we're really doing here is pressure testing whether your staff model matches the level of academic support, enrichment, and youth development that you're planning. For example, some blocks might require certified teachers, while others can be confidently staffed by youth development professionals and paraprofessionals. Partner-led activities may reduce staffing pressure, but increase contractual costs. So thinking about budget again. As you start thinking through this, it's helpful to notice where the staffing load might be heavier than expected. So things like transitions, arrival and dismissal windows, or field trips. We're still talking about those field trips. These often require extra adults, not fewer. And on the other side, there may be places where roles can be stacked or shared, like having the same staff member lead 2 consecutive blocks if qualifications allow for those. So your staffing plan must be sufficient to provide safe supervision and deliver the academic enrichment and youth development described in your grant while staying within your budget. This is also where we begin to identify risks early. So hard to fill roles, specialized certifications, or times of day that are more challenging to staff. Not all roles are created equal in terms of recruitment difficulty, so naming those early helps you plan ahead. So as we walk through this slide and prepare for the activity on the next one, keep asking yourself, do I have the right people with the right qualifications in the right places at the right times? This goal isn't to finalize every name today. It's to make sure that the structure you're building is realistic, safe, and aligned to both your program model and your resources that you have. So let's take a look at the activity. We're going to utilize the Knowledge Network again. If you are able to and smoothly access. Nope, you got something to add, Chaz?
Yeah. I think we might have broken the Knowledge Network.
Oh
I think we're gonna just respond in the chat. So we'll drop
Okay.
like a little stem for you to be able to access while you're doing the
Okay.
chat.
Wow, congratulations all. We broke it. That's a good thing. That means that we were flooding it with all of the wonderful responses that we had.
That's right.
Right? We'll take the positive spin on that. Testing the limits. Yes, absolutely. We found the limit. We'll have to up that limit, right? All right. So next up, while Chaz is setting us up for success for this activity, we're going to translate your schedule into people. So because the schedule is only real if you can staff it with the right roles and qualifications, as we just discussed. So before we jump in to this activity, I'll frame out why this step matters so much. Up to this point, you've been designing your program around goals, blocks of times, and the experiences you want students to have. But none of that becomes reality unless you have the right mix of people with the right skills, and have it all, come together really well. This is one of the biggest predictors of whether a summer program runs smoothly or feels chaotic. And we want the smooth side of things. So instead of capturing staffing needs we're going to capture staffing needs in the chat. We're going to pivot from the Knowledge Network. So here's our discussion prompt. Chaz, are you ready you dropped it in already? Great. So in the chat, we want you to identify the role needed, thinking about staffing roles and gaps, So include 2 to 4 bullets, or in your chat, you could just respond that way. Is that how it will work, Chaz? Will they have the capability of like
Yeah,
bulleting
yeah,
it
you
out
should
or
be able
just
to
adding it?
respond in the
Okay,
chat. Yeah.
great. The role needed to run it safely and well. Minimum qualifications for that role, one staffing risk or gap you anticipate, and then optional, you can also think one mitigation idea. So cross-training partner support, staggered schedules, sharing staffing across groups, things like that. So we'll allow you to add your responses to the chat. And I'll also note that as you're writing, think about the activities in your draft schedule that feel most staff dependent, because some of them are not as heavy as others. So focus on that. For example, a STEM lab, a couple of you wrote how STEM materials could be a budget need. So that might be also a need for staffing as well. Staff has to be comfortable with the materials managed. A field trip often requires additional adults, as we talked about, beyond your schedule. So we want to think about those too. And I'll shush up now so you can write your responses. All right, so Angie wrote, teachers certified from the school the students attend. Our only concern is more teachers want to work than we need. Oh, wow, that's a great problem to have. Love that. But yeah, now identifying which of those teachers you will utilize in your summer program. Maybe thinking about their availability and what areas you plan to place them in your schedule, the qualifications there. We have our summer staff. Where'd that one go? We have our summer staff in place. Everyone is returning. Amazing, Paula. That's great. Kudos to you that they're all returning. Must be 21, have driver's license. Okay, so thinking of those qualifications, good. Shared staffing in rooms as well as for transition times, that's important. Role needed, lead staff. Okay, so you've identified that need right there. Waiting for a counselor, social work, for on-call contract. Poppy also feels very well staffed. That's great. Small rural town. All right. Okay. So yes, if you're in the process where hiring is going to take place in the next month or so, then you'll be able to really identify where those gaps are as you go through that hiring process, but also thinking ahead too. While you're doing this plan out, you can have those specific buckets of needs that you're looking at in comparison to the plan that you've started laying out. And that might help you really see like, okay, I need staff that are qualified in this area. So it's a good time to look at this now and plan that out when you're about to do some hiring in February, March now. All right, we have staff, but no alternates. Yep, okay, we need those backup. I had so many people that wanted to work this summer. I made some available to other sites. Great, that's an awesome use of the abundance of help that you're receiving. All right. Staff members who can perform different roles. One who can lead instructions, serve snack, and drive a van or a bus if needed. That's definitely important things to think about. So I feel like you all are having a really great idea of what staff you need, what qualifications are important to you in your program, and also where those gaps are and where you're already set for your summer programming. So that's really awesome to see. And there's also some great responses that others may be like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. And taking note to include that in my plan as well. All right, so let's take a look at our next section, Okay. All right, so once your operations and staffing are sketched out, we can clarify who needs to be in your program. At this point, you've built a picture of what your program can support, the hours, the structure, the staffing model, and the capacity. Now we're shifting towards identifying the students who align most closely with the goals you've outlined. This is where your recruitment plan becomes intentional instead of general. And it seems like from previous conversations that we've had today, that recruitment, you all are starting to think of recruitment, or that's a spot that you're needing to start to work on a little more. And luckily we have time. So in your intentional recruitment plan tab, you'll identify must-have students. These are students whose needs are most aligned with your program goals and your 21st century, your 21st CCLC purpose. So academic support, attendance concerns, behavior, and other risk factors. And then the should have student bucket, that's students who would clearly benefit and fit your mission, but who may not be the very highest need students. So it's important to pause here because this is one of the biggest mind shifts for summer planning, right? We aren't just filling seats, we're making sure that students who need the support most are prioritized and actually get access to the wonderful programs that you all are planning. And that requires being specific. Not just thinking in general categories, but naming who those groups really are in your building or your district or your community. And then also federal guidance emphasizes that 21st CCLC is designed particularly for students who attend high poverty and low performing schools and who need additional support to meet state standards. So the way you define your priority groups should be grounded in data, academic performance, attendance patterns, behavior indicators, or other documented needs from your needs assessments. Your needs assessments and logic model should really drive how you define these groups. So open them up, take a look, and let that guide your planning needs here. And then your layer on capacity and schedule is very important to continue thinking about too. So that sequencing really matters. Start with need, then look at your program, what your program can reasonably serve based on the operations and staffing work you've already done. Once you know who the program is designed for, it becomes much easier to build a recruitment strategy that are targeted, realistic, and match your team's bandwidth. So we're going to look at our next activity when we design, where we're going to design recruitment strategies connected directly to those groups. Okay, so we want to think specifically who you most need to reach and how you'll reach them in a way that matches your capacity, schedule, and staffing needs. So we've spent the last few slides grounding ourselves in operations and all that involves. So at this point, you know how many seats you can support, hopefully. Maybe you could drop in the chat if you're already thinking ahead. How many seats do you feel like your summer program can support? Which grades or groups your schedule best serves, and what kinds of staff you have available or plan to have available now that we've thought through that. Now's the time to connect all of that to the students who will benefit most. And this is where recruitment plan becomes the focus instead of keeping it broad. All right, so we're going to keep this in the chat too, unless the Knowledge Network is back up, Chaz. No? All right. We're going to roll with it and continue in our lovely chat. So let's take a look at the next discussion, which was our prompt 4. Chaz already dropped it in the chat. So take a moment now to think about one must-have student group, prioritized based on need first, one recruitment strategy specifically matched to that group, and what the strategy requires to work. So the staff time for follow-up, materials, translated materials, partner support, incentives, all of that. And you can also think ahead at for a barrier you may anticipate when working through this recruitment. Thank you, Chaz, for dropping that in. You all can start putting your thoughts. We serve non-proficient kindergarten students to prepare them for first grade. Great. 14 kids. Awesome. So you have that in your mind already. Rising 6th and rising 9th. Must fit on a minibus. That's great. So comparing it to the transportation too. I love that. Kindergarten readiness. Wonderful. Rising kindergarten, meeting with parents during pre-K events. That's wonderful. That family engagement is important. Should have attended kindergarten to be eligible. All right. $68. All right. That's a big group. I love it. K through 8 grade students. Yeah, middle schoolers don't work well with younger students. I don't think any of us can disagree with that. It's good that you see that and are already thinking ahead. K through 8, our goal is 80 students. Wonderful. Recruitment strategy. Okay, so flyers, that's a great way. You're going to distribute that at kindergarten registration. That makes sense. And for social media, website, absolutely. Social media, so seeing some trending social media trends there, that's great. You have that capability, for sure use it. All right. Definitely seems like you all have been already thinking ahead for how to lay this out. Definitely think about that recruitment strategy too. We've seen social media, sharing at kindergarten registration, some flyers. Is there anything additional that you may think of? Definitely drop it in the chat.
I love this point about counselors, like getting referrals from school counselors and from our school day partners. That's another great recruitment strategy.
I agree. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water, Susan. I feel you on the cough. The more talking, it creeps up. Getting over the same head cold that is running rampant.
'Tis the season to be coughing.
Sure is. I'm gonna need to actually take a break again. Sorry.
So Alicia, I'll just make a little plea that, and maybe people are seeing this. As you start your recruitment strategy, you may want to rethink the popular first registrations first in, because the very students that you might want to get may have the families that may not be on top of their game with getting registration materials in. So you want to make sure that your seats are not filled by priority of as soon as the registrations come in. It would be really beneficial if you have a different policy and let people know that they'll hear, who the successful people are at a later date, to accommodate our, the friends that we need to have in the program.
That's a great pro tip, John. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, John. Thank you, Susan. I knew you would. When I heard you talk earlier, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be alone here if I start to have a coughing fit. All right. Great point, John. Everyone's agreeing. They're definitely going to keep that in their back pocket for that. So hopefully this helps you all walk away with something a little more concrete, and not just ideas as you're working through your planning. Sometimes the stop doing piece is the most powerful here, is take a pause, work through it, simplify, broad outreach so staff can focus their time where it has the biggest impact too. All right. Excuse me. Okay, and now we're going to turn it over to John.
Yes, so Alicia, you can take a little break there.
Thank you.
Um,
Perfect timing.
So I'm really excited about all the planning we're doing already for summer. And as we said at the very beginning, it's never too early to start planning. It's really great even when summer ends, like in those days after summer, to write down the points you wanted to remember for next year. Because if you're like me, by this point, I've been doing so many other things. I've kind of forgotten all the little things I wanted to remember about last summer. But okay, so we've worked on our logic model. We've looked at different things here for getting our schedules ready and doing SMART goals. Probably the last thing we start thinking about is the data plan. And so I want you to start thinking about that too. And that will be based off the goals that you have, right? We want to assess the right things. So we want to convert your initial data plan into a simple action planner that you can use during implementation. And from what I understand in North Carolina, the grantees use a 21DC system for data collection and reporting, and access requires a signed confidentiality agreement. At the federal level, all the states use the 21 APR system to report to the Department of Education there, and there are outcome measures there. So we want to figure out how we can take data and not to take more data, but to take the right data that you can use probably in all three things: for your local information, for the state information, and for the federal information. So the more you can align what you're collecting and the things you're looking for, the less headaches you're going to have, right? So if it's collected consistently and at the right times, then you'll be able to monitor quality during the program. A lot of the data that the feds ask for and maybe your state asks for might be end of program data, but you want to make sure that there's ways to do some assessment during the program. And while the program's going on, periodically get some hard and fast data to see, is it working? How can we make some changes that might influence better results? So thinking about that, making real-time data, continuous improvement, not just the end of the summer reporting. So for each outcome in your logic model, we want to identify 4 things: who collects the data, who assures the data is complete, what tools will be used, and when is that data reviewed for continuous improvement. Once again, you don't want to just take data and not even compile it and figure it out right away. You want to make that almost instantaneous, because summer is a very short period if you think about it. So if you can assess things weekly, that would be terrific, because every week you can just improve and improve and improve. So those are the 4 main things that you want when you're making an initial evaluation plan. And then what we were going to do a KW activity, and congratulations again for stressing our system so we can make it better. We did some, we have some real data there, right? So anyway, we're going to, we want you to pick a priority outcome from your logic model, and then think about how you're going to assess each outcome, and how it's going to be, what the collection tool is going to be, and who's going to collect that, and who's going to do the assessment. So I believe you're gonna, if you could just post using operations, schedule, budget, staffing, recruitment, data plan, whichever you feel is most urgent, think about some concrete actions that you can take. So like maybe finalizing hours with transportation, drafting full weeks for grades 3 to 5, pricing field trips, confirming final hours with transportation, so we want you to think of some things that you can do now as soon as the session's over and you get your team together and figure out what are the things that are most urgent for you to be doing. Perhaps there are some shared resources that, if you don't get in line to have a field trip somewhere or to use a specific transportation stuff, you might get shut out because other groups might want to have that. So those are the resources that are limited, or you want to make sure you hop on that now so you don't get shut out of those things. So yeah, Chaz has put the prompt in the chat. So for one of those outcomes, who's going to collect the data? Who will assure the data is complete? What tool will be used to collect it? When will you review it for continuous improvement? So put that in the chat. We'll give you some time and then we'll come back. When our knowledge network comes back up, if you're having trouble logging in or getting there, please, there's an email for the 21st Century NTAC. Please email them and they'll help you get your sign on and log on working and get you to the knowledge network. So please, it's a great resource. We just taxed it to its max today, but there's lots of great things there.
I actually just refreshed the page just for fun to see what happened, and it looks like it's back up right now.
Well, don't all rush there at once.
But don't, yeah, you can continue typing your responses in the chat, but
yeah, there are great resources there and lots of neat courses you can take yourself or to set up a group so that you can review, which people in your program have taken courses and keep track of your staff. So I see some group leaders and directors are the important people for doing the data, site managers, site directors. I know sometimes there are surveys that have to go to parents that have to come back. So I would expect probably the group teachers or instructors or leaders will collect that and pass it on up to the directors. And of course, any testing data done by the staff will be passed up too. There have been wonderful responses in the chat all the way through. I know that we're going to find a way to share that with you so it doesn't disappear somewhere. Daily attendance trackers. I don't have to preach to the choir, but when you have exciting programs that are going on and students just want to be there, then they've developed not only the love of your program, but the love for going to school and being in the school setting all the time. So I really appreciate all that you do every day and, making sure that kids are in their seats and finding out why they're not when they're not is so important.
That positive word of mouth is also a great recruitment tool, right? I mean, we've all had people where, a student that's in our program pulls in another student from like, that's going home, like, oh, come see what we're doing at after school. Oh, okay, cool. And all of a sudden that kid becomes part of your program, and his brother and sister become part of your program. It can grow like that.
Right. So cool. I see that a lot of people are thinking about who's the responsible data people. Now, I sort of got a little ahead of myself before, but let me get back to the tangent I was going off of. So now we just want you to think of next steps after you talk about all the stuff that we've talked about today. What are the next steps that you're going to do when we're finished here? And you want to make sure that we're thinking about, what are the important parts that are kind of glaring omissions that as we talk today, you're like, oops, I forgot about that, or we have to work on that a little bit more. All those different things that we talked about. We talked about operations, we talked about schedule, we talked about budgeting, staffing, recruitment, data. We talked about the whole shamil shamazel, right? So let's try to figure out where those gaps are. And if you can get to that planner, that's a wonderful place to put everything, and you can, share that amongst your people. So if you can think of one concrete action that you want to do and who is going to do that by when, and maybe what support you need. So that would be great if you could put that in here, because it helps you put it in the chat. It helps you make that commitment to continue this positive role here to get the summer planned out. What a great feeling it will be to have it all mapped out as best as you can. Chaz dropped that prompt in there for you to respond to.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your responses. So as we come to the end of our time together, I do want to encourage you to build on the work that we've done here. So here are some great ways that you can do that, right? You can confirm, the operations in your schedule, right? Do some finalization as much as possible. Again, we understand it's February, right? So there are some things you might not be able to finalize, and that's fine. But as many things as we can get concrete and set in stone as possible, the better, right? Because that frees up our mind. We only have so much executive functioning, right? So we need to be able to truly be able, like, prioritize and triage the things that actually need our attention. And so making sure that we finalize whatever details we can now allows us to do that. I would encourage you to, even though we're not sure what all of our logistics look like yet, draft at least one full sample week schedule, just so you get a real sense of what it feels like when you're running your program and where the gaps might show up, right? Because the only way that we know where those cracks are is when we start building, right? And then it's a really good idea to, like we were just talking about with John, make sure that we are being very clear and intentional about aligning our roles and activities. So not just making sure that our staff is aligned for the activities that we're providing, and making sure that they are properly prepared for that, like Alicia was talking about, but also making sure that people know who's responsible for data collection and who is responsible for verifying that that data has been completely collected, like John was talking about. All very important things, right? And it lets you take a moment to see where those gaps are, to see if you need more staff to do A, B, or C. And then you also want to, while you still have some time to put together really intentional recruitment processes, define who your must-have and your should-have groups are. Like John was talking about, we're not just doing the first come, first serve, right? Because it'd be great if we could just serve all of our community, but we know that we have a certain amount of capacity, and we know that there are higher need populations that we should be serving first. So how do we target them and make sure that we're casting a wide net to bring in as many of them as humanly possible before we then give the rest of the places that we have to our should have groups. And so what are some really impactful recruitment strategies that could help for that group? And it's a lot easier to figure out what those strategies are once you've figured out who those groups are. And again, your need statements that you've done earlier and that the planner helps walk you through, those can help inform those decisions. So for each task here, I would suggest that you put somebody responsible for it, right? They don't have to be a manager. It can just be like, hey, listen, I need you to start thinking about this, right? You're really clear, you have your finger on the pulse of the population of our community, right? So can you tell me who you think are the must-have populations that we really need to be serving? And if you think we're doing that, and if not, how do you think we can reach them, right? While you're doing that, live in that planner. That planner is incredibly powerful, and it helps keep all of your thoughts aligned, because again, all of this seems like a lot until you start putting all of your ducks in a row and you're like, oh, actually that's not that big a deal. It's manageable, right? It's like, right, how do we eat an elephant? We do it one bite at a time. And this is how we plan our summer programming. We do it one step at a time. And that's what we've been doing. And I really want to thank you for doing the good work here with us as we've walked one step at a time through planning your summer programming to make sure that it's even more impactful than it has been. And so I also do want to point you to, now that the professional learning portal is back up, I want to point you to our learning management system, because we have the next course in our leaders series, that 21st CCLC Essentials for Program Leaders here in the top left of the screen. We have module 104 of that, which comes out, I think today, actually. I don't know if it's exactly live right now, but it does go live today at some point. So I want to encourage you to check that out too, because the Knowledge Network is awesome in the way that it helps you collaborate with other people. But sometimes we just want professional development on our own, and we don't have the time to go find that professional development. That's where our learning management system can really come in handy. You can see just some of the courses that are already here, and they're all free to you. Just by being part of a 21st CCLC program, free to you and free to your staff. So if you want important, impactful professional development for your staff, this can also be an approach for you. And it's asynchronous, so you don't have to make sure all of your staff is together at one time to do it. It's just a great way to make sure that we're helping to continue to improve the capacity of our staff and up training. So, thank you all very much for sticking with us and doing the incredible work as you've done through this entire series. If you have any questions before our next series or our next segment in this series, please reach out on the website or through there's a contact form on the NTAC website. So feel free to, let us know if there's any outstanding questions, if you need help with anything. Also, please, if you have some questions, post it in the Knowledge Network. Don't be afraid to. I guarantee you there's somebody out there that has the same question you have, right? So don't be afraid to do so. So in closing, I again just want to thank you, and I look forward to seeing all of you and hearing about the good work that you've done come March, when things are starting to warm up and it feels like summer is actually getting closer to us. And with that, I will turn it back over to your wonderful North Carolina staff.
Thank you so much, Chaz, and thank you to your team.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Well, we will stop the recording here, and if you have any questions, you can, hang back, but we're going to be done for today.